Hey team video, happy to have you. We are working on notes 14. Make sure that you see this note sheet in front of you and you're filling it out with me. So today we are multiplying matrices. Yesterday, or maybe earlier today, you did multiplying by scalar, right? That was the first way that we did it. That's where we just multiply, like we have a 6 there, we just distribute it. This is actually different. This means matrix times matrix, and that is what we're doing today. We've already done addition and subtraction, and so today we're going to multiply. So this is pretty tricky. I want you to stick with me, see what we can do. I'm going to explain what is written in this section. So to multiply matrix A times matrix B, we'll call this one A, that one B. We multiply each row in A, the corresponding column in B. So we're going to do the first row and the first column, right? We see that they're different sizes. We see that they're different sizes, and we're going to go ahead and do row 1 with column 1. We multiply the first one and the first one, right? That's 1 times 7. We multiply the second one and the second one. That's 2 times 9. And then we multiply the third one and the third one. That's 3 times 11. And then the last thing that we have to do is, after we do that, add them all up. So we would say, okay, 1 times 7 is 7, 2 times 9 is 18, 3 times 11 is 33. And if we add those things together, we get 58. That becomes the first thing in our matrix. Right? So that's how we're just trying to get to one number at this point. Right? So that is pretty tricky, but let's go ahead and see what happens next. Right? Order really, really matters, so I want you to be very careful as you're working through here. So we're going to do the row, and then the column 1, and then column 2. And then we're going to do row 2, we're going to do column 1, and then column 2. So this is a 4-part process here. So here we're looking at the second one. So we've already done this one, right? Now we're going to do row 1, the first row here, with the second column. So we have 1 times 8, that's here, 2 times 10, that's here, and 3 times 12, that's here. Right? So 1 times 8 is 8, 2 times 10 is 20, 3 times 12 is 36. Add those together, and we get 64. That becomes the second part there. All right, so that was that one, right? So we know that we've done this row here with the first column and the second column, so we know that we're done with that row basically. Right, so we're going to work with our second row here. So our second row is 4, and we're going to work with our first column. So 4 times 7, that's our first part, 4 times 7. And we know we're going to add that to 5 times 9. Okay, and we're going to add that to 6 times 11. Whoops, not 10, 11. So we know we've got 28 plus 45 plus 66, which if we use our calculator to add our great mental math, we get 139, which we can see you put in this part right there. Right, so that is our last one, I'm sorry, our second to last one. And then finally we need to know what goes here, which is row 2, column 2. Right, so if I'm thinking about row 2, column 2, I'm going to think about row 2 with column 2 here. So I have 4 times 8, 4 times 8. I have 5 times 10. And I have 6 times 12. Right, so 4 times 8, 32, plus 5 times 10, which is 50, plus 6 times 12 is 72. I don't have a calculator, so I'm going to add these two together first. That's 82 plus 72. I know 8 and 7 make 150, and then 4, 154. So I'm going to put that right here as my last thing there. Pretty tricky. What we need to remember is that we do the first row, right, goes with the first column and then the second column. And then the second row, no matter how big it is, goes with the first column and the second column. Right, so pretty tricky. It's really, really important that we think about order when we're doing this. So if we would say, let me go ahead and actually find that for us. Photos, you guys can see all my cool photos as we go here. I want this guy. Okay, so our rule for matrix multiplication is that you can multiply if and only if when you're doing A times B. So in this case, we had a 2, whoops, we had a 2 by 3, right? And then we are trying to multiply it times a 3 by 2, right? So you can only do multiplication if the middle two, if the number of columns lines up with this one's number of rows, right? So we can see that this one had 3 columns here and 3 rows here. And so we can say, okay, this one would work, right? And then we know that the matrix itself, the resultant matrix, would be 2 by 2, right? So let's just take a look here. Let's say we had 2, 3, 4, and 6. And then over here we have like a 3 by 3. Right, so we'll just put 3's in all of them. Right, so this would be a 2 by 2. And if we're trying to multiply it times a 3 by 3, we see that the middle ones don't line up, and so we know that this is undefined. Right, so we need to be able to count the correct order so that we know if something is undefined or not. We'll see that in our later sections here. All right, let's clear that out. Let's go ahead and flip your paper over and check out the problems you have on the back. And we're going to take a look. So here we have let's see, we have a 2 by 2 times a 2 by 2. And we see here that the 2 and the 2 are the same. So we know it's going to be a 2 by 2. Our answer is going to be a 2 by 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at my first row along with my first column. All right, so I'm going to do 3 times negative 1. I'm sorry. Whoa, I don't know where those numbers came from at all. 1 times negative 2 plus 3 times 5. All right, so 1 times negative 2 and 3 times 5. And that is going to give me the first part that goes right here in my equation. So I have, that's negative 2 plus 15. Negative 2 plus 15 would give me positive 13. So for that first section, I have that one there. I'm going to go ahead and erase this so we have some more room. But I know that I did that guy right. So here I'm going to have my first row still and my second column this time. So I'm going to have 1 times 2 this time plus 3 times negative 4. Right, so that's going to give me that section. That's going to go right here. 1 times 2 is 2 plus 3 times negative 4 is negative 12. Negative 12 plus 2, or 2 plus negative 12, is negative 10. All right, so I have those first two sections. I'm going to go ahead and erase this guy again. So I'm going to say, okay, let's switch a color here. All right, so I've done my whole first row. I'm going to work to my second row and go back to my first column. So 4 times negative 2 plus 6 times 5. So negative 8 plus 30. Negative 8 plus 30 is 22. Goes in that section there. And then finally, I have my bottom row here and my second column. So 4 times 2 and 6 times negative 4. So I have 4 times 2 is 8 plus negative 24, will give me negative 16. I can see that I have that 2 by 2 that I was expecting to have. These are super long problems and may require you to think about some organization as you're going, but I know that you guys will be successful. Let's look at this one again, a 2 by 2. I'm going to see if I can use colors to show us that this will work. So here I have a 2 by 2. I know my answer is going to be a 2 by 2 because I see the outside ones here. So, all right, so if I'm thinking about this with colors, I'm going to think about my yellow here times this yellow here. So yellow, yellow is going to give me in the first section, go ahead and make that bigger. I have negative 2 times 14 plus 4 times negative 3. Just like that. That's negative 28 plus negative 12 gives me negative 40 in the first section. Right, so that was the yellow. So let me go back here. I'm going to say, okay, this part here is yellow. Right, my green section here, I'm going to go ahead and do my first row and my second column this time. So I have negative 2 times 2 plus 4 times 44. Right, so negative 2 times 2 and 4 times 44. So that gives me negative 4 plus, some quick math here, 44 times 4 would give me 176. So 176 plus negative 4 gives me 172. From there, I see that I have 2 colors on my top part there. So I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to use this one here with this one here. So I have 8 times 14 plus 0 times negative 3. 8 times 14 is 112 plus 0, so that is 112 there. And then finally, in my last section, I have 80 times my second row over here. So that is 8 times 2 plus 0 times 44. That gives me 16 plus 0, which is just 16. Right? So I should see by the end, I should see that in this first section, I have 2 colors for each row. And in the second, I should have 2 colors for each column. Right? So I have a yellow row and column, a green row and column, an orange row and column, and a purple row and column. And that should help me to sort of think about organizing my work as I go.